Larry Holder, Jeff Duncan here with you. We're going to break down a little bit of the Saints-Vikings NFC Divisional Round matchup. And Jeff, certainly not the same Saints team we saw in Week 1, and you can argue as well, certainly not the same Minnesota Vikings team that we saw in person at US Bank Stadium in Week 1 either.
Yeah, but I think both these teams, when they opened the year on Monday Night Football, really didn't know what they had. They were both kind of pretenders to being contenders, thought they could be in the mix, but they've gained confidence, I think, as the season's gone on. The Vikings have won 11 of their last 12 games. They're 7-1 at home. So we know that they're going to have every confidence in the world they can win this game against the Saints. Conversely, the Saints were such a young team when they opened that game. We didn't know what Alvin Kamara was going to be like. We didn't know Marshawn Lattimore was going to be what he is. And the Saints are completely different. They have different lineup combinations. A lot of guys are hurt that aren't going to be playing in this game. So I think you almost have to throw that first game out. I think it's going to be a completely different complexion to this game this weekend compared to what we saw in Week 1.
And, of course, the Week 1 talk of the town was Adrian Peterson. It's as if he never was even on this team anymore.
Good point, yeah.
Because that was the big storyline. What's Adrian Peterson going to do? How are they going to divvy up carries? And he's long gone, hopefully forgotten by Saints fans because Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara played so well. And then you mentioned the offensive line. Look, Teron Armstead didn't play that game. Zach Strief was at right tackle. Ryan Ramczyk played left tackle. Max Unger was his first live action with the unit because I think he played in the final preseason game just a touch, but it wasn't with the starters.
Right.
So definitely the offensive line is different. And look at defensively, Ken Crawley was a healthy scratch. Lattimore, we did not know who he was, and we saw all kinds of breakdowns in coverage. I assume you're not going to see that. I assume, at least, because we saw some breakdowns in coverage against Carolina, but I assume they can shore that up, maybe going up against Minnesota this time.
Well, they were also using Kenny Vaccaro in a different role back then. He was playing a lot of deep safety, and that didn't work out well. He had a lot of miscommunication errors along with Devontae Harris, who was on the field at cornerback. The Saints have changed around their secondary completely. They were going to go in with their three corners now, P.J. Williams, King Crawley, and Marshawn Lattimore. And those coverage breakdowns, we saw a few of them against Carolina. They have to be eliminated. They cannot go into this game and give up some chunk plays to the Vikings downfield. And I think really the biggest change in the game is going to be at quarterback for the Vikings. The fact that Case Keenum is now the quarterback. He's a career backup, a journeyman who's played lights out this year, and he's playing with a lot of confidence, but he's never played on this stage in this type of environment, and I just don't know how he's going to respond. We know Drew Brees is going to play his typical game. What's Case Keenum going to do against the Saints defense? Can the Saints force him into some mistakes and maybe create some short fields for the offense, and they can get the lead and flip that pressure onto the Vikings? That's the key to the game for me.
I remember back in Week 1, Dalvin Cook, their rookie running back, playing well,
right,
tore his ACL. Now it's Latavius Murray. And you look at their ground game without Cook, it's kind of – they don't have the major yards per carry. Overall, as a team, I think they average less than 4 yards a carry. So even though they do run it a lot, they don't run it – and they don't have these big breakaway weapons. So, but the Saints cannot allow that to happen. And it's going to be quite a contrast from what we saw in Week 1.
Yeah, I really think both of us agree on this. It's going to be a low-scoring game. I think the Vikings' defense is good enough to keep the Saints in the 20s. And conversely, I think the way the Vikings run their offense, they're very conservative for the most part. They just pound the ball with those running backs. Neither one of those guys are game breakers. They're solid running backs, but they're not going to break off the big, huge gains. So I really think this game is going to come down to a field goal here or there. And I like the Saints' chances in this one if they can avoid the critical mistakes and give something easy to the Vikings. They can't afford to do that.
Well, we'll see what happens soon enough. Sunday afternoon, US Bank Stadium, Saints-Vikings, the NFC Divisional Round. And we'll be there to document all of it. Photographers, reporters, Jeff and I writing our opinions. And, look, we'll be all over it here at NOLA.com and in our print editions of the Times-Picayune. So for Jeff Duncan, I'm Larry Holder. Thanks for joining us.